Hello friends and welcome. So this is going to be my second rendition of Look Ma, No Hands. And although most of it will end up being up on our feet doing standing poses, I want to start with just a couple of things on the ground that kind of mimic or show us the shape of what we're going to do standing. So go ahead and lie down on your back. And I guess if we're saying look ma, no hands, you know, with carpal tunnel, you can probably put a little weight just to make the transition, but you know, you want to try and have the transition mainly in your lower body anyway. Sometimes not using the hands can kind of help teach us that. And then as we roll back and down, you'll end up on your, oops, I'm going to switch positions just for microphone placement. Once you end up down on your back, just take a few breaths. Let's take about 5 breaths or so. So inhale, and then when you exhale, release any muscular tension in the face, the neck, and the throat. Inhale, and when you exhale, release any tension in the shoulders through the arms, hands, and fingers. We're not in a rush by any means. Inhale, nice, slow, steady inhale. Exhale through the upper chest, back, down through the belly and the low back. Inhale. This exhale is for the hips, all those muscles that run into and throughout the hips, and ligaments and tendons and fascia and all this stuff, right? And one more breath here. Inhale. And this time targeting the legs through the feet and the toes. Exhale, soften and release. Okay, so you can open the eyes, you can keep them closed, either one. We're going to walk the feet into hip distance, or put the feet on the ground if they were extended. Bring your right leg in, and exhale, bring the right leg down. So I'm not putting my hands around it. Inhale, left leg comes in, and this is not because of wrist sensitivity, this is just to warm up the abdomen. Exhale, bring that left knee down. Inhale, that right leg rocks in. We do get a rocking in the pelvis. Exhale, bring that down. So we're not trying to stay steady in the pelvis right now. As the left knee comes in, my low back does round down into the ground. Right? Now we're going to change that. Now try to keep the steadiness of the pelvis. Don't let the low back round and bring the right knee in. It probably won't go in as far. Exhale and bring that down. Don't let the low back overarch. Inhale, left leg comes in towards the chest a little bit. And exhale, bringing that foot down. We'll do that one more time. Right knee comes into the chest. Keep the hips and the low back steady, and bring that right foot down. And bring that left leg in without disturbing the alignment, right, in the hips and the low back. Bring that down. And now one more, a little more intense. You can simply hug the right knee in and leave it in, or you can move it into tabletop, which is a little harder to hold for most of us through our abdominals. And then bring that left leg either in towards the chest or into tabletop. So either both knees are a little towards the chest, the low back is steady, or your legs are in tabletop. Our backs really want to go up to the sky, our low backs. So keep that low belly, not just pulling down, but pulling, lengthening all the way up through the crown of the head to stabilize here. Are your shoulders still soft? Is your neck still soft? Is your jaw still soft, right? If not, can they be? And then go ahead, put one foot down on the ground and then put the other. For me, it depends on the day. I've come a long way. I used to clench all of it and try to do my core work with so many things other than my core. And I've actually gotten to the point where I'm mainly doing it through my core these days. It's quite lovely. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and we're going to walk our feet out wide, and just for good measure, tee the arms out, and let's let our legs swoosh back and forth with windshield wiper. Nothing really new to add here today to it. Use it as a way to just kind of feel out the hips and the low back, whatever else you might be feeling. And then after you've gone to the left the next time, well, I don't know if I called out right, whatever side you started on, finish on the other side and bring the knees back up. My brain's a little slow. Go ahead and walk those feet into hip distance. Now from here, we're going to go ahead and we're going to let the legs extend all the way out to straight. Now I'm on a sticky mat, so I'm going to get a little resistance. You could put socks on or put a blanket underneath you. We're not going to do a ton of them, but you know that half Baddha Konasana I sometimes have you do on your back, bound ankle? So you just drag the right heel back a little bit, letting that right leg stay wide. I'm not trying to get the heel really high. Let go of that, right? And then just kind of slide that heel forward again. So again, as steady as you can on a sticky mat, pull that right heel up a little bit. It gets about to the height of my left knee or so. And then go ahead and push that down. So do that one more time, just on the right side. Right heel slides up, and go ahead and pause when you get there. Let that right leg be heavy, and this begins that opening in that, well, a couple of areas. Right, we're opening from our right inner groin through our right inner knee, but you might also feel how it starts to lengthen from that left hip point over to the right. That one's less sensational, but still occurring. And then from there, go ahead and slide the right heel down. Same thing on the left side. We're going to slide the left heel up a little bit, let the left leg be weighty and heavy and fall out to the left, and then push that heel down. And again, pull that heel up again. I'm really going only to maybe slightly higher than the height of my right knee and sliding down. So it's not about using a lot of strength. We're trying to find softness, actually, the exact opposite right now. I don't know if it's the exact opposite, but go ahead and let that leg fall out. Let the left hip be heavy, the right hip lifts a little bit. Tune into how that left hip is feeling, especially that line from the inner groin through the inner knee. And then, you know, the lesser sensational one, tune in from the front of the right hip point across the abdomen over to the left hip point. And if you were in an MRI, like what would your sacrum be doing right now in that SI joint, right? Both of them, but particularly the left. And then push that heel down. Now from there, you're actually going to take your both knees and swing them over to the right. Have your right thigh approximately parallel to the short edge of your mat. And then you're going to let your heels move away from you a little bit until you have a 90-degree angle at the knee joint, right? And you can look at me, I'm demonstrating all of this. I'm going to bring us into the shape of Warrior Two here on the ground, right? So right now my right thigh is an external rotation. I'm going to keep it an external rotation. I'm going to soften my left shoulder back down to the ground, and I'm going to stay here for a breath and enjoy the twist before moving into that next position, right? Now, keeping the right leg where it is, you can even put your right hand on it if it's helpful. And then I'm going to take my left leg and I'm going to reach it back across that left side of the mat, and I'm going to try to straighten that left leg out any amount. And it doesn't have to straighten all the way, but again, if I put you on 2 feet right now, you would be basically in the shape of Warrior Two. I want you to notice a couple of things. I want you to notice how that left hip is up off of the ground. So when a teacher tells you to square your hips to the long side of your mat, I don't really care for that cue. I don't think that's healthy for the hips, and I think we can do some damage if we do it over and over, right? There is an asymmetry in the hips, right? They are not parallel right now. So notice that for a moment. And then the other one is notice that it's really hard to straighten and lengthen that left leg, which it is in the pose too, less so than here, but really push that left inner heel down, 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 that outer, I should say, sorry, heel out and away, and try to lengthen and straighten that left leg any amount. But my chest can parallel, right? It's all the way down, both of my shoulder blades, even though my hips are not. And then go ahead and swing that left knee back over to the right. Bring those knees back to center, feet on the ground. Pause for a moment, recalibrate. I like to lift my hips and set them down so I'm back to center. And just pause for a moment and notice what you notice about that. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to just let those the knees fall over to the left. Try that again, right? And then once you get there, you're going to go ahead and let those knees, again, they're parallel to the short edge of my mat. And then I let my heels move away until my knees have a 90-degree angle in them. Now I'm going to soften to the twist before I look at that Warrior Two business. So soften that right shoulder back down, 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 down to the ground, right? And breathe from there. And just enjoy the twist. Now we're going to keep the left leg where it is. You can put the left hand on the leg if that's a helpful tool. Reach that right leg back behind that right or across the right outer edge of that mat and start to straighten and lengthen that right leg a little bit. Now mine's going down a little lower than my left heel. That's okay. That's okay. It's hard when you're not on the ground to equalize that, right? But we're still straightening the right leg as much as we can. We're noticing how the right hip does not come all the way down to the ground, although the more I work that right outer heel, the closer it's going to get. But it's never going to be at the same place as that left hip, that left leg in external rotation. However, my right shoulder can wrap down to the ground so that my chest, right, is, I'm calling it parallel, I guess, to the ceiling or the sky above you. But just meaning, notice that you can, right, when we're standing, I'll say your shoulders are parallel to the long edge of your mat. You can do it with your shoulders, not with your hips. So please don't force the hips into something they're not supposed to do naturally, right? And then go ahead and swing that right knee back over to the left. Bring those legs back through center. Breathe there for just a moment. You can lift the hips and set them back down. And then we're going to come on up. So you can go, again, with wrists, you can go through the fetal position, and you've got that one short little push into the ground. You could do that with a fist to come up. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to try to come all the way up to standing. So just for if anyone is worried about putting weight in their wrists, right? What happens if you use less hands and you use more abdomen? My legs are off to the side. I tone my low belly in and I pull myself up, right? I'm just switching positions so you can see me. And then from there, I can curl my toes under. I might use my hands for just a second and try to roll on up. So just food for thought on other ways to approach it where you're not putting weight in your wrists. Go ahead and step those feet out nice and wide, long edge of your mat. We're going to go to the right first. I'm going to mirror. Turn the left toes in or kick that heel back, just like we had it on the ground moments ago. We're going to turn that whole right leg out. So this is an external rotation. Again, just pointing out that my left hip is not parallel to the long edge of the mat, right? My shoulders can be. Inhale those arms out wide. And then exhale, go ahead and bend that right knee. Try to have it directly over the ankle and moving straight over that. If I put a floor or a wall next to you, would your right hip, your right shoulder, and your left shoulder all be hitting that same wall behind you, right? The back of the head, the pinky fingers, all that stuff. And then really work that outer heel down and get this thigh to work. I'm not forcing this hip back, but I am asking this thigh to do a lot of work to stabilize me here. Soften the shoulders out of the ears and maybe turn and look over those right fingertips, right? And breathe. We're going to transfer this. You're going to reach forward into side angle, right? And you're going to bring that forearm down. Left hand can come onto the hip. Please do, everybody. Work that elbow back. Roll those ribs back open because they probably lost their parallel factor and fell down that left shoulder. So try to parallel the chest again to a wall in front of you. And then maybe that arm does end up reaching all the way over. And I reach that heel down like the Dickens again to work that thigh and lengthen and breathe. Now reach that left hand, fingertips up towards the ceiling. Go ahead and put your right hand on your right thigh. I'm not bearing weight. I'm just simply placing it there and letting my body come up a little bit as I straighten my right leg. And before you just dive down for the floor of the ankle, another cue I don't like, keep that right hip in, roll that left shoulder open again. Get those 2 points and your right shoulder against a wall behind you. If we were doing this laying down on the ground, right, we would have that. And then maybe you do creep down, but not at the expense of losing that alignment, specifically between the right hip and the left shoulder. Try to keep those both against that same wall as you slide down any amount. And maybe you don't slide down at all, and that's okay. Slide the shoulders away from the ears. Are you less of a person if you don't? Turn and look up. Is your body happier maybe if you don't? And then go ahead, left side waist, coming up, hands on hips, turn toes forward. This is the sequence today. Turning right toes in, kicking heel back, whole left leg out. Inhale the arms out wide, pause. Again, check in. Would your left hip, your left shoulder, and your right shoulder all be against the same wall? Now bend that knee, let that thigh and that knee slide out against that imaginary wall that's behind you right now. Once you land it, push that right heel down. This right hip is not going back to the wall. Do not force it to do that, please. It's so bad for your SI joints, especially when you do it over and over and over again. And then keeping that, right, that activity, maybe the shoulders soften, you turn and you look over those left fingertips. Crown of the head lifting high, taking a breath, side angle. Reach forward, reach forward, reach forward, reach forward, and place that forearm down. All of us, right hand on hip. We can use the elbow to our advantage. If we move that elbow and roll that shoulder back, right, and we get that hip, again, everything against the same wall, the right hip, left hip, left shoulder, and right shoulder, right? Now maybe turning that palm up and reaching all the way over into full extension. Shoulders away from ears, you might turn and look up here. And again, is your chest, not your hips, is your chest parallel to an imaginary wall in front of you right now? Hoot. I just hit the microphone, I'm sorry if that was loud. And then go ahead and reach your right fingertips up to the ceiling. Put your left hand on your thigh, not bearing weight, just placing it there for a moment. Straighten the leg. Let the body come up for a second. I'll get you to that deeper place, I swear. Now again, if I were to be against a wall, my left hip, my left shoulder, and my right shoulder, which is the hardest part normally that we miss most of us, the shoulder and the hip, right? And then I'm going to creep down without letting that left hip move out behind me, without letting my right shoulder come off of that imaginary wall, aka my chest is still parallel to an imaginary wall in front of me. If it helps you to remember lying on your back, remember lying on your back at the beginning. Maybe turning and looking up, pushing that right outer heel down to stabilize, and then using right side waist, we come all the way up. Turn the toes forward. And let's go ahead and put our hands on our hips, our elbows back, so make sure your feet are parallel. We don't want them turned out for this particular one, for the knees. Bend the knees a little bit and go ahead and fold on in. Now I'm going to put my hands down. I'm not bearing weight in them, right? But I can put them down either between my feet or I can grab my outer ankles. And that way I'm not using my wrists, right, or bearing weight in them. But hopefully maybe that just gets me, helps me, gives my arms placement so that my body can just soften in and drape in here. Take one more breath. So come up, bend the knees, hands on hips, elbows up, and come all the way up. You know, when I say hands on hips, especially, I have a friend who's going to be having carpal tunnel syndrome. You know, you can always just have your hands next to you as well. You don't have to have your hands on the hips. And you can still work with your elbows and your chest, right? Toe heel, bringing yourself all the way in. Pause, standing in Tadasana. Notice the body. Notice the breath. The mind, the emotions, the energetic body. Bring your hands together in front of your chest. Again, maybe you don't do this and you imagine it after surgery. Inhale, and then exhale, bow the head in. Just taking a moment of gratitude that you have this space and time and that you're nurturing your body. Namaste, friends. So there's just another sequence where I try to A, leave the wrists out of it, B, address them just a little bit as we move throughout. And I don't know about all y'all, but boy, this area of me feels like it's got a lot of energetic channels that have opened in it. So hopefully you have found the same as well for yourself. Be well, friends. Take care of yourselves.